So there are some core areas that we work on in IPRI. One is system security, so that's everything from the surveillance security issues that we work on, IoT security questions, and other traditional cryptography issues where we try to look at what kinds of policy questions come up associated with security. How do we make systems more secure? Under that area, we are working in particular on critical infrastructure security. So we're trying to understand the security needs of infrastructures such as the electric power grid, our financial system, our communication system, our healthcare system, our chemical supply system. These are parts of our overall infrastructure that are especially important, that if there are flaws there, it can really do catastrophic damage to society, so we're putting a special emphasis there. That's our security work. We have a variety of projects in the privacy area. In my work in government, I helped the White House produce a new Consumer Privacy Bill of Rights, so we took a broad look at the changing needs of internet users and other consumers in this new environment. We're putting more and more personal information out into the environment, all of us. We wanted to make sure that government was taking the right steps to protect consumers, to make sure that basic privacy rules are enforced. One of the things that I think we learned from that is that we still have a lot to learn about how individuals respond in different kinds of privacy relationships. Just when is it that individuals are either comfortable giving out personal information, or when are they uncomfortable giving out personal information? So we have begun a series of projects that apply human-computer interaction study techniques. These are really mixed method techniques that combine computer science and psychology and behavioral sciences to understand more about how individuals interact with computer systems. We're taking those techniques and applying them to privacy to try to understand what kinds of privacy relationships should companies be constructing with their customers, what kinds of privacy relationships should governments be constructing with their citizens, so that we can make sure that people don't feel a chilling effect, so that people can interact freely and openly and not worry that too much personal data is being collected or that it's used for the wrong thing. So that's our privacy work. We have a whole series of activities looking at network architecture, internet architecture in particular. People are aware that internet service providers have pretty complicated relationships these days with the so-called content providers, the Googles and the Amazons and the Netflix of the world. So there are a lot of questions about how much internet service providers charge for their service. Are they treating all the different content providers fairly? We've always thought of the internet as an open platform. We want it to be an environment where everyone can speak, where everyone can access whatever information they want. We don't want the internet service providers to in any way act as censors or decide what content will be available and what won't be available. At the same time, we want to make sure the internet service providers are economically viable, that they're able to invest in their networks. In the United States and all around the world, there's a big debate that goes under the name net neutrality. That is the question of how should internet service providers be regulated, what rights should ISP users have, what rights should content providers have. So we're trying to study the underlying network engineering associated with this question. Just how does traffic flow on the internet? What do you do about the fact that Netflix generates a whole lot more traffic than, for example, you or me? How do we make sure that everyone's paying their fair share of the cost of the internet, but at the same time we're not restricting access to any particular content, we're not having any kind of a private censorship regime. So we have a whole area of research in that area. And finally, recognizing that we're in a kind of a rebirth of artificial intelligence and the development of autonomous systems, everything from autonomous vehicles to machine learning systems that make very detailed decisions about us, Am I the right person to hire for a job? Am I entitled to get a loan? Should I be admitted to MIT? Increasingly, there's machine assistance that's being devoted to making decisions like that. We don't do that at MIT, just by the way, of course. But we are looking at the question of how should we make sure that these new autonomous systems that we're developing here at MIT are functioning in a way that's fair, that's safe, that respects individual privacy and other individual rights. We want to make sure that as cars that are increasingly autonomous or driving around, that they're safe and that they're accountable, so that if there's an accident, we have ways to figure out, was that the fault of the designer of the autonomous system? Was it the fault of one of the drivers? Was it some other problem? Much of the machine learning technology that underlies all of these autonomous systems, again, whether it's cars or other kinds of decision-making systems, make decisions at an extraordinarily rapid pace, take in huge amounts of data, make very fine-grained decisions, but often are not very good at explaining why they made a particular decision. And if you want a system to be accountable, it has to be able to explain itself to people who are using it. Everyone from the driver of the car to the person who's the subject of a decision from some machine learning data-driven system. So we have an area that's looking at fairness and transparency in autonomous systems.